Hello and welcome to another edition of Football Express. It's a special edition today. In the studio today is Gerard Lawlor, the Chief Executive of the Northern Ireland Football League. I want to ask you what the challenges were when you stepped into the job, the progress that has been made, because I know you don't think it, but NIFL has got the right amount of credit for advancing the game in various aspects. Now, not always a harmonious family. People have different opinions about different subjects, and we'll talk about them in a moment. But when you took on the job, Gerard, what did you go in and see? I think actually I interviewed you afterwards and you said, it was a bigger job than I thought it was going to be.
I went in and I noticed right off, look, there was things that I wanted to do differently. I wanted to, there was challenges to clubs. There was things we wanted to reform.
What's the subject, Gerard, if you don't mind?
So, well, the first thing I had to do within NIFL, there was a staffing structure, which I think was, maybe had been there for a while, and I wanted to put my own stamp on that. Unfortunately, we had to make some really tough decisions, which I have to make for the good of that. It mightn't have been popular decisions, and it was tough for some people to take. But I mean, I wanted to modernise NIFL. So when I arrived, and I'll describe it to you best, Stephen, when I arrived, NIFL was 3 staff who ran a football league. So they did fixtures, they appointed referees, and that's what NIFL was. And some people, and even I sometimes will argue, that is NIFL's job. We are a league. We are a football league. We appoint referees. We organise and schedule matches. That's our job. Now, I think over 3.5 years later, I describe NIFL as a PR and marketing company that runs a football league, if that makes sense, because so much of what we do about is growing the game, promoting the game, trying to develop the game, trying to get more eyes in the game, trying to get better exposure. So I suppose in the 3.5 years, what I've did is we've changed the function of NIFL for our clubs. Some of our clubs didn't have the function themselves. Some of them needed help along the way. I felt the Irish FA weren't doing it at the time, so someone had to do it. So NIFL, and I think along with me and my colleagues, we picked up the baton. The one thing, the biggest achievement that I'm proud of at NIFL is the staff. I'm so lucky, and I know this is a cliche, but the staff and the team that we have built at NIFL, I think, is one of my biggest achievements. You know it, and I know people, you've been in the office, everyone's dedicated to Irish League football. Most of the guys support a club in the Irish League, which is fine, because they have a passion for what is going on within their club. So we've built I think we've put a staffing structure in place that helps our clubs deliver. For me, I probably underestimated the parental role. And what I mean is the parental role of NIFL is you want what's best for your children. You want to encourage them, you want to develop them, you want them to have the best that they can have. And you do that constantly. Sometimes you have to punish your children when they do things wrong. So that's the part of the job that's never good. And then the child can almost, when we're angry and annoyed as a child, you hate at your mum and dad. Some of the clubs hate NIFL at times. We talk about the football family. So, I mean, look, overall, I think we have a good relationship, I think, on most of it. But look, NIFL, for me, is a league of clubs run by those clubs. I've changed the board structure, a lot of our committee structures. We've changed, I think we're fit for purpose. I didn't think we were at the time. And that evolves constantly. I mean, we looked at committee changes 3 years ago. We're now looking at them again to think, well, 3 years later, we're in a completely different place. So we've built the staff, we've grown the staff, we're producing our own stuff that we never did, as you're well aware. We're putting out content, be it on social media, we're producing our own matches in a lot of cases. I mean, one of the things, when I arrived, I always remember, we were paying the BBC to show the highlights of the women's games. So NIFL paid the BBC. Within 3 years, another company actually pay us now for the rights to the women's game. So we've done good work on the NIFL game. European leagues we've grown. So we do a lot of our stuff outside of Europe. We talk to European leagues. So I think probably 3.5 years ago, nobody knew who NIFL was. We were a small league. We weren't communicating with anybody. I always remember going in and saying, well, what are the Scots and the Welsh and the English? do, we talk to the Premier League in England on a weekly basis. We've built relationships. So we were very parochial. And I always remember saying to the guys in the office, go out and ring people up. Everybody loves to tell people when they're good at stuff and what they're good at. Let us go and see other leagues and see what they're good at and ask them how we can learn. And look, there's much larger leagues than us right across Europe. But 3 years in, I could ring La Liga tomorrow. I can meet Premier League. I have 2 meetings with Premier League this week, as an example. So we have a lot of support from bigger leagues who are more than willing. We've grown our relationship with the League of Ireland. We obviously run an All-Ireland Women's Cup. So am I happy? Would I like to progress further? Would I like to see things more advanced and is in a better place? Of course I would. I'm impatient, but I feel over the period that, look, it's my first job as CEO. We've got to be, so I've had to reflect on my skill set as a manager, realise anything I say is out there. I've had to mature. I'm being truthful about that, and I think I have over a period of time. There's some people, I've made lots of mistakes in the past. I've did things maybe when I was at Cliftonville or, got involved in stuff that you look back on nowadays and you go, Christ, did I really do that? Or I shouldn't have did that. But Northern Ireland people aren't willing to forgive you for doing some things. We all have to learn from mistakes. So overall, am I happy? Yes, I am happy, and I'm pleased with where it is at the minute.
Challenges when you took on the top job at NIFL, would address that. And listen, outstanding challenges, and I'm going to hit you with the sort of remnant that you have actually discussed or tried to. Brown envelopes in the game. Storm Dara, what did we learn? Northern Ireland Football Fund, 36.2 million, a bonfire on the horizon. I have a quote here: I feel our clubs are the forgotten children of the Northern Ireland football family, and I will always fight for that. I will fight for our clubs to get the recognition and respect they deserve. I think you've said that actually, yeah. Summer football, Sunday football, full-time projects, are they sustainable? Which comes into the financial compliance regulations, online abuse and mental health issues, and referees. Where'd you like to start, Gerard?
Jeez, Stephen. What are we here to, 9 o'clock?
Well, this is,
Let's start at the top, Stephen.
All right, brown envelopes. Listen, we can talk. I can certainly talk. We know what goes on in the game. It has done from year dot. It's very hard to prove.
Yes, it is. Look, I think we've cleaned up a lot of the Premier League. I don't think there's particularly an awful lot in Premier League. Does it go on in some other areas of NIFL clubs, NIFL leagues, and lower down the game in Northern Ireland? It does. And I'm always confident, and I'm pretty sure that someday someone will fall out with someone and the house of cards will then come in. And as you often say to me, when someone puts their chin out, we'll be very close. Look, we're not stupid, Stephen, you're right. We know what goes on. We know there's people, there's clubs I've challenged. It's a form of cheating. It's dishonourable. It's difficult to prove, but I have no doubt. One of the things we have looked at lately is possibly bringing in someone, because what happens is someone rings me up, oh, this is happening. Another, every club, there's very few weeks that I don't get a phone call from another club saying, somebody is saying Johnny and he's getting this here and he's getting, and I go, well, have you any proof? And rather than tell me the rumour, if you can give me proof, I'll do something about it. So, and there's a lot of rumour and telltale. So, look, we've talked about employing someone maybe that will go in and start to investigate. PFA have been very good, because PFA are coming now and they're saying, look, we don't want this. We're telling our members it's the wrong thing to do. So I think we have cleared up an awful lot. I don't have a lot of concerns about Premier League. Maybe one or two isolated incidents here and there. But overall, I think Premier League's in a completely different place where it was 10 years ago.
What happens if somebody is caught? What happens to a club if they're caught? De facto, absolutely.
The rules are there. They're black and white. I believe they're watertight. They are demoted, depending on where they go to, looking at the offence, but they will be very heavily punished within football. Across the board, no matter who it is? I don't care who it is. I have no fear of who it is, Stephen. Okay. The rules apply to everybody. Fair point, okay. Well, we're talking about finance. I'm going to skip to
Financial compliance regulations. It's been very, it's taken on more importance in recent months, I think. And I have, like, Irish Premiership clubs collectively lost over 3 million in the year ending December 23, as I understand. And also bringing us on to the full-time projects. Are they sustainable, Gerard? And we're just going to talk as football people. Tell us about the FCR, what it is, when it's coming in. Are clubs aware of it?
Well, the clubs implemented it, but are the clubs aware of it? I'm not so sure. So and this is how things happen. So obviously we were concerned, clubs, there was money. Now, we look at the figures from last year, and there's different ways of accounting, and different clubs will do things differently. So I think the majority of that came from 2 clubs in particular. And then they would have had other companies that have made money, maybe they'd offset that. So, but look, we always felt with it, and this is something ourselves in the Irish FA have worked very closely together on. And in this one, we asked the clubs, do you want something to happen? And the clubs were very much, yeah, we want a set of regulations. Spoke to the Premier League again, Man City case, and we wanted to keep our regulations as simple as possible. Some clubs would have wanted a salary cap again and a percentage. We felt that did push things onto the table possibly. But I'm also a believer, if a club or an investor or a donor has money to put into the club, we don't want to restrict that. So if someone is willing to put money into a football club and into football in Northern Ireland, welcome it, we embrace it, and we encourage it as long as it is done above board. So what we did was, with our things, is we set up a working group with the Premier League Management Committee. It was voted for. They set it up. We brought in the Irish FA and a group of accountants. We devised a set of proposals. We had came back. The rest of the clubs didn't. There was tweaks made to it. We then come back with the second set of proposals, and the clubs endorsed them, all that was there.
Take us through then what's going to happen, because there's 2 years of sort of...
Yeah, so where we start is almost, and we'll have clubs, so we have clubs in 2 different financial years. So we have a calendar year being the year 2024, and we have a football season, which is the 24-25 season. And what we've did, the first year on those club models are the test year. So this year, in a way, will allow us, as a test season, to tell the clubs where they are at the end of this season. Now, the clubs should know where they are at every stage. So at the end of the 24-25 season, we will be able to give clubs to say, here's your... Well, they're giving us their financial reports, and we're giving them, here's where you are. Next year is the first full-on year of compliance. So at the end of next season, or the end of the calendar year 25, we will be able to say to clubs, let's say you have lost £100,000, you have to make back £100,000 in year 2. So the clubs have a very clear point where they are. And then what happens at the end of that second year, so they've had almost a 3-year period to lead in, that's when D-Day arrives. And that's at the end of that season, we sit down and we look at clubs, and there's a line of punishments that has been agreed. There's a tariff that has been agreed by the clubs, that has been voted on, and bar one club who wasn't at the meetings at the time, the other 11 all unanimously agreed to these. And I mean, over the last 3-4 months, I've had numerous conversations with clubs saying, you're aware of these? And there's some people, no, we haven't seen these before. And I'm like, you're sending a representative of the club, we've emailed them to your secretary, they've been in the press, they're well out there, don't come to us in 2 years' time. We've had clubs in that were concerned about their spending. We've had clubs in where we've sat down and we've talked to some clubs possibly about needing bonds for some of the contracts that's coming through the system. So I believe the Irish FA and ourselves are very united in this. We have shown leadership. We have made the road very clear. This is a black and white subject. There is not a tint of grey in this situation whatsoever. And the clubs know the situation. Now, they can bury their heads in the sand all they want. They can ignore them all they want. But I don't mean to be unforgiving, but in a way I am unforgiving, saying, but because in 2 years' time we will be standing like the Grim Reapers. And if clubs have not met these, there will be punishments. And those punishments have been agreed by these clubs.
Is it the figure? Is it 75 grand you can only lose over
Yeah,
2 years? Is that a
there's-
ballpark figure, or is that across the board?
No, that's across the board. There is 75. You're allowed a dip of 75 grand over it, but we'd like to see clubs breaking even. But there's a safety net there in some shape or form of 75 grand. I mean, the other part of it is we have left in somewhere that if there's a unique circumstance, because we don't know what the Northern Ireland Football Fund is. And clubs may have to move out of Stadia. But overall, in the operating business, the club must break even over a 2-year period.
And just to be clear, because there is a bit of, and I understand it, a bit of a grey area about investors and maybe donors, okay?
Well, let me answer that. And I used the term there, and I stumbled as I said it, the word investors. There is no investors. Let's be truthful and call a spade a spade. Anybody putting their money into an Irish League club isn't getting it back.
Really?
In most cases, look, it's extreme circumstances. Tell me anybody's put money into a football club across the world. I mean, the joke of football is it's football's how billionaires become millionaires. So I prefer we talk about donors. So what I'm saying is, and this was part of the issue in the past, so some club owners were putting it in as shares, and the shares and the debt was then being written off to different companies. What we want to do is remove the exposure of our clubs, because down the line an owner needs finance or his family take over or people die, then the club is completely exposed to that loan. Where we're saying, look, anybody can donate as much as they want to football in Northern Ireland, but they are donations. Or the club has to have a way of paying something back. But for people to sit with hundreds of £1,000s in shares, or that are a risk to an organisation, or taken off a balance sheet to make a club look solvent, that won't cut any further going down the line.
Well, maybe you can't answer this, Gerard, because, this is probably, we're straying into areas that we didn't get into football for, really. And I'm not talking about I'm talking hypothetically. Say a benefactor, let's say, somebody who's put a few quid into a club, big wobbly one, I'm out of here. Are there any structures in place to prevent clubs from going to the wall? And do you fear that clubs might go to the wall?
Well, this is why we've did it, Stephen. Is there any immediate effect at this moment in time? Because in a couple of years, as to say, we want those shares and loans to be converted to donations. So we're doing this to protect the clubs. Look, at the end of the day, this is back to the parental thing. We're the parent and we're trying to be good parents. But at the same time, parents grow up and start their own families and go off and do their own things. It's up to the clubs. The clubs have to be run by competent people. The clubs have to have, through licensing and through other mechanisms that are in place, it is ultimately a responsibility of the clubs. We can preach and preach and preach, and that's what we're doing. We're preaching an awful lot, and we're trying to help and support, and we'll update people. But ultimately, the responsibility is to the directors of these football clubs that must run their own business. We don't want to be dictators. I know it's a word I'm often associated with. We don't want to be dictators. We want to show good models and good governance. And good governance models are out there. So that's the responsibility of the clubs. We will help and support as best we can. But what I'm very much been saying to clubs, don't come to me in 12 months' time and saying, we can't claw this back. I have already, in a room of clubs, said to some of our clubs, along with some other clubs, saying you are walking into darkness and you will be down a very dark tunnel because you can't pull this back in a 6-month period.
But I've got to ask you, just to tease it out a wee bit, can the clubs, and you're right, the clubs make the rules for NIFL?
Look, NIFL will always, it's much easier if we all go collectively.
Can the clubs, or can anybody change the rules as they are? Can
Not
it be
as they
removed?
are. It would take, look, there's always ways and ways, but it would take, the NIFL, look, there's articles of association about the NIFL membership can do whatever they want. Let's be honest, they're the people with the authority, but it would be, these are Premier League rules that have been signed up for. The NIFL board have the power to implement them. So the likelihood of somebody just saying, look, I'm in the shits here and I'm going to change this, no.
Okay.
Not really, but I couldn't just say, there's no, collectively, there's ways and means, but not one club just saying, I'm not playing anymore.
Okay, thanks, Gerard.
And look, there is clubs, sorry Stephen, I'll say this too, we have concerns about. There is clubs, as I said, we've spoken to. There is clubs that we may go down the road in the future of asking them to provide bonds for some of their contracts. And again, the responsibility for players who are signing big contracts and taking big offers, they need to make sure the money's in the bank, because they needn't come rapping my door down the line, because, you know, we're not going to be the saviours, but we will be the police and saying, you signed up to something and we will police it.
Okay, thanks for that, Gerard. I think you've dealt with it very comprehensively. It's a thorny one. The Northern Ireland Football Fund, formerly known as the Sub-Regional Stadia Fund, 2011 I think it was first mooted. It's been a controversial one. If we remember back, let's talk about a letter of comfort from the sports minister to Glentoran, allegedly promising 10 million. Derry were in line, we understand, for a slice of the cake as well, a big slice of the cake. That fell by the wayside, probably in tandem with the whole casement project and all the delays that we've seen. Now, Gordon Lyons announced that he would be releasing it, and I think, if I remember correctly, you welcomed the announcement but made it quite clear you didn't think it was enough. Now, no messing about, it's 36.2 million at the minute, Gerard. I think there will be, I know there's processes to apply through and point scoring and all that kind. I anticipate rows. And also, is this all we're going to get? Because, I mean, in the background, and it's all choreographed, I reckon casement, are, you know, the GAA is going to look for more money for casement. And if the sports minister gives more money to casement, I would imagine your good selves and the Irish FA will be looking for similar levels of funding.
Yeah, look, first of all, you're right, Stephen. Look, there's no way it's enough. It just doesn't even hit the tip of the iceberg. The minister knows that, and he's been very open about that. So we welcomed it with cautious optimism, I think is the term that I used. The way the minister, and I think himself and the staff deserve a lot of credit, because it's almost going to be a rolling programme. So there could be people, and the way he's explained it is everyone will bid. If the programme or if what they put in is they feel is good, they may get it approved, but without the money at this stage, if that makes a bit of sense. So there could be, let's say, 40 programmes approved at different stages. So we'd say out of these 40, we're going to take 5 forward with the 36. The other 25 or 35 programme may have approval, depending on what way the minister works it. He might take forward one big programme, he might take forward 10 small programmes, but I think other clubs will get approval for their programmes, but then we need to find further money. And that's what we're all doing. Funny, I was in contact with the minister today. Last Thursday, I met the UK sports minister at an event in England, and we discussed the need for more money. So do I feel there is money out there? Do I think if we can get all our ducks in a row and we're all batting from the same, this over a 5, 6, 10-year period, all the projects could be done at different stages? Yes, I do, to be honest with you.
This is a tricky one maybe for you, Gerard. So has the minister given you an understanding or agreement that there will be more money beyond the 36.2 million?
Yes is the answer. He's trying to get it. I think he's been very open about that, Stephen. You know, the department have did a piece of work where the current need is well over 200 million at this moment in time. And the minister has been open. He's been out and he's saying he's spoken to centralised government. We're speaking to them. We're always looking. I mean, he is bidding for more money, I believe, out of the current budget. Will he be able to find some money in his own budget within the Department of Communities at this stage? So yeah, I think the current minister is very committed to it, and they sees this as a flagship project and is trying to get the money. I say we talk to the English government, the UK government, at this moment in time, and do I think there will be top-ups through time? There will be other money available. I do think so. I am confident, Stephen, that now we're at this stage to go forward. I believe over a period this will all happen. Yeah.
Well, straight talking, Gerard, you started off in the hospitality industry, so did I. We're both Belfast men. Is there a possibility this will be kicked into the long grass? We will promise, jam tomorrow.
Well, we've waited 14 years on the 36, Stephen.
Well, indeed, and it's all singing, all dancing. And I have to say, the minister wants plenty of praise for this. and he's talking about, more projects down the line. But let's see the colour of the money.
Well, yeah, but we've also got to remember, you've health, you've education, and we're bidding against all of those things. But look, I think if we don't do this work, we've got away with sticking plasters over certain stadia. They're not going to last another 10, 15 years, Stephen, at this stage.
But surely, George, I'm sorry to interject, but surely, yes, we know that there are big projects all across the land, and that includes Derry City now, we must say, and football at all levels. Yeah. But say you need 5 million to do a job properly, right? Like, is it feasible that you maybe get 1.2, 1.5, for now, and then you have to wait for another?
I don't think it'll happen
only get
like
half
that.
a job done. Do you know what I mean?
No, I don't think it'll work like that. I think you'll get your 5, but somebody else might have to wait in their 1.5 for a while. And that's where we have to, in a way, I think that's the way that it can happen. Look, if the minister was to come out and say, let's say, here's 300 million, we're going to do these 40 projects tomorrow morning, we don't have the infrastructure in Northern Ireland to do it. Let's be honest, there is some projects that we know are in dire need. There is other projects that we know, we can put a stick and plaster on that and do it down the line. I'm assuming that's it's very transparent. It's a scoring matrix. The minister then will decide what to take forward and what not to take forward. Look, is there going to be people disappointed? Of course there's going to be people disappointed in this programme. Don't think there's any doubt about that. But I think we must have faith, and I think we have been able to demonstrate a real need and within football. Casement, we've separated the two issues out, but yes, if casement's built and there's an uplift, well, that gives us... we all know what goes on in the corridors of power throughout Northern Ireland. If we're looking at 150, 200 million, is it really massive money in a government fund over possibly a 5 to 10 year project? I don't think it is, if I'm really truthful with you, Stephen.
Particularly, as you say, when we've been waiting for it for 14 years.
So do I think in 10 years' time, am I confident if we could all fast forward and after I've gone from NIFL, we come back and Northern Ireland football looks completely different? I think it will be.
What date are you leaving on, Gerard?
I'll get that to you as soon as I can.
Okay, I don't want to take it too much. Well, you've spoken very well, and thank you for your time, Gerard. Summer football and Sunday football. People say these are your pet projects. That's maybe a bit unfair. I think you're always trying to improve things. Tell me, summer football and Sunday football, where are we with
Summer football's a drive from probably about 50% of our senior clubs. Let's be honest, we know who those clubs are. Larne, Linfield, Crusaders would be some of the main drivers that would want to see a tweak or a change this season. And they're no secret. So what we've got to do and what we're trying to do, probably 4 or 5 years ago, I was never convinced on a change of season. But I'm of a belief now, and I'm not a March to October guy in any shape or form. Because I think even through the new UEFA competition, and you look at Shamrock Rovers, it doesn't work any longer. Would I like to see a tweak in our season? And I think, is it worth trying for a period? Is yes. Is there benefits in a tweak? And I think there is. How many people do we lose to England and Scotland every weekend? Will it improve our data rights? Will it improve our European performances? I believe the answer to all those things is yes. Will it increase crowds? Will it get people in the grounds? So do I see a tweak in the season? Now, I could live with it either way, but it is the clubs that are telling me on a lot of occasions this is what they want to do. So it's my job, along with the NIFL board, to investigate and look at models that work, and we're in that process. Are we any real further? No, because I still think on a good day, we're sitting within Premier League at 6-6. Some days somebody may go, depending on a manager change, it could go 7-5. I believe we need at least an 8-4.
Okay.
So I'm doing that. Sunday football, which I get most of my stick for. Look, my life is we all cannot play at 3 o'clock on a Saturday afternoon repeatedly.
You like the weekend idea, don't you? Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Steve, we're a small country. So, I mean, as an example, at the weekend there, I was in East Belfast for the Welders Dundalk game. The amount of Glentoran people, or people who would go to Glentoran as their number one, around that game probably made up a large percentage of what was there. So what I'm saying is, we can't We must believe in our own product first of all. And I'm not saying we compete on Sundays or when Man United are playing Liverpool. What I have often said is there a Thursday night market somewhere? Friday night does very well for our television partners. We can't show Saturday afternoons, as we know. We just all can't. We have a very small, in a way, football market and a football audience. And if we can decipher, even for people like yourself in the press, you know, some of your journalistic colleagues have said to me, well, rather than cramming everything into a Sunday morning and someone getting every little bit, well, if there was one on a Friday, you have your Saturday paper full of football, you have your Monday paper full of football. So we want the Irish League and NIFL football to be the highlight of every morning and every day's press. So look, the football world and the football landscape is changing. When we look around Europe and you look at apps and football, there's football every night of the week. Why? And I get totally frustrated and concerned of why do we just think we can play football at 3 o'clock on a Saturday afternoon in Northern Ireland?
Fair point, yes. Now, I'm going to maybe drill into a wee bit about the Sunday now, because as I understand it, as things stand at the minute, if two clubs want to play on a Sunday, they can, but they can't be forced to play on a Sunday.
Yep.
Now, would I be right in thinking, I don't know if it was NIFL or the Irish FA, but that was trying to be changed?
NIFL, we tried to change it at NIFL. So what we've got at NIFL, and obviously living in Northern Ireland, we've a unique set of circumstances. Our job is to grow the game. So giving you some live examples, the excuses we get, so one club will come and say, we would like to try this game on a Sunday. And we say, well, go and talk to your opponents. What we've got is, the manager's not willing to do it because he goes out on a Saturday night. Somebody's on a stag weekend, somebody's going out with their kids, somebody's going to a Rangers or a Celtic game on the Sunday. You know, and we're going, is this really professional football? Is this really the professionalism that we want? So people are not making the cut because they don't like change or they want to do other things that suit them. But we all want more money into the game. So people want it on their own terms, in their own circumstances. Like, I'll be very honest, having to work every Sunday is not really up my street, let me tell you. But I am saying on certain Sundays, in international weekends, we've now changed the Sky, and we've convinced Sky to come away from 8 o'clock on a Monday night to Sunday afternoon. You know, we had our first game domestically outside of a cup final at 3 o'clock last Sunday afternoon. So we're looking, and again, the added value that our product and our brand is getting on Sky Football on a Sunday afternoon at 3 o'clock across the UK. Now, does that give opportunities for some clubs will say we don't want to do it because our social clubs. So we're trying to bring all this in. I am never saying we become a Sunday league. I am saying, and we asked clubs this year to play maybe 2 games. We don't have enough Sundays even for everybody to play 2 games in one season. So the Sunday also for me opens up earlier in the week. If there's nothing on a Thursday night, is there an attraction on Thursday night football? Friday night, Saturday. Clubs don't like playing Tuesday, Friday. So we're saying, well, okay, we just got, I just believe there's a real pressure pot at 3 o'clock on a Saturday afternoon for referees, for attendances. Saturday for me is now a normal day of the week for so many people. The country no longer stops for the weekend.
And in fairness, yes, I mean, I'm a traditionalist, Gerard,
Yeah,
probably.
So
And I was like, no, I like Saturday afternoon. And by the way, thanks for your altruistic, you know, changing it all to help the journalists, like, you know.
Totally, do you like that?
I like that. I didn't want to let it go. You know, I like the whole impact. You know, Radio Ulster does good coverage on the Saturday. I liked it. It was a big impact. It's changed, and I kind of like it. The one fear for me, and this is not my agenda at all, it's not necessarily what I believe in, but what about 1 or 2 or other clubs out there who don't want to play on Sunday for religious reasons? And I have to say, for probably Christian religious reasons, if it was a different religion, there might be a bit of trouble about that.
That is part of society in Northern Ireland. We are a changing society. Don't get me wrong. I hear that, Stephen. We're never stopping anyone from playing football or going to church, sorry. So I'm a Christian. I've always said I practice my faith. So football has never stopped me or anyone else. I think we've got to be considerate. Number one, we don't play games that are near churches at a time when church services are taking place. We all must live with our neighbours. We have to move forward with the rest of the world. Everyone else is, you know, And I get this, Stephen, and it's particularly difficult to answer because you don't want to get in to mudslinging. But you tell me nobody watches football in Northern Ireland on a Sunday afternoon. You know there's people who, a lot of our clubs, some of them don't want to play football, but they open their social clubs. So they're happy to sell drink, but you can't play football. There's people play golf, but they won't go to football matches. Look, society has moved on. People will honour God and worship God in different ways. And look, there may be a small minority, and it probably is a small minority that I fully respect, that they feel, I cannot do this on a Sunday afternoon. And unfortunately, we're never going to get it. There's people, and we know people in the game maybe that have gone into fire brigade or other police who can't play football on a Saturday afternoon at 3 o'clock. Unfortunately, there will be people, but can we accommodate the vast majority of the Christian faith within Northern Ireland to play football? I believe we can. As I say, we're asking somebody once, twice tops a year to maybe partake in a game. And if their faith prevents them from doing that, we have to respect that.
Fair enough. It's a thorny one, I know. And full declaration, you know that I was heavily involved in the Belfast Sunday League for many years playing.
When every Irish League player played in it, and ducked behind the hedges.
Half of your Cliftonville team was playing, mentioning no names.
But it is, and we've got to be, look, Steve, not to hammer it home, we have to be sensitive. It's Northern Ireland, it becomes political.
It's a unique place.
And it is political. But are we a unique place? And is there a time, the shops, like the rest of the world, every other sport now operates on a Sunday bar football.
We are a unique place, Gerard.
We are. And
maybe we need to be, maybe we're a bit behind the times. I wouldn't disagree with you necessarily there, but it's a thorny one, and I wish you well. A couple of more matters, and Gerard, I really am appreciative of you having this great football discussion. Referees, are we going to get VAR in? And what are your views on referees? March 2021, Gerard Lawlor, the big concern I have is the standard of refereeing.
And some of them still haven't forgiven me for that article, let me tell you. Look, at the end of the day, and I probably have to be a little bit more considerate, no matter whether we like it or not, the senior panel are the best people in Northern Ireland at this moment in time. Is there more that we can do to help them, to support them, to develop them? Yes, there is. Referees, for me, will always make mistakes. I see it at the top end of the game. The next batch, or the current referees, will always be the worst group we've ever had in their lives, but the people 10 years ago were the worst. I think I've sympathy for them in some cases because there's more exposure on our referees now more than ever. And I think where our referees can learn in a way, they will make mistakes. Holding their hands up to making mistakes. Like you and I talked before this show today of a decision last week. We've completely two different views on it. I've heard referees having completely different views on it. So, look, will VAR appear? I think there's a stage. There's no plans. There's nobody rapping my door. Sorry?
There's no money for it.
Well, no, but then we're able to find money for other things.
Well, then we need to go and get it from UEFA.
So, well, it has to come from the Irish FA UEFA because NIFL doesn't have it. And look, refereeing is a matter for the Irish FA. Do I think in the future there'll be a later version, a better version? Do I see it possibly, I don't know, the next 5 years being available? It's a wee bit like electric cars. Nobody would drive them. Now I've, bought one myself lately. The world is changing. We must support our referees better. And I think if the referees shows humility, and a little bit of, I got it wrong. And I think as football authorities, we could do more. I genuinely believe we could do more. And the Irish FA probably is the leaders of this, to sit down, to have discussions, to have panels to look at decisions, to help clubs through those. I believe there's more we can do, and we must strive to do that.
I've heard this, and I try and take a fair view about referees. I've had my ups and downs, but we need them. There's there's no doubt about it. Now, say a referee does do the magnanimous thing and put the hand up and saying, mea culpa, I got that wrong, and it gets hammered on social media. It gets hung out to dry, and that brings me on to online abuse and mental health issues. It's a balancing act between, listen, there have been some odd decisions, some inconsistent decisions from the referees. It's a balancing act to try and support them, but then where's the accountability? And I'll be honest with you, Gerard, we do talk straight. Kind of the theme that comes through to me is, well, there's only a limited pool of referees, so what are you going to do?
Well, that's it. And look, it is a very hard task and commitment. Look, there's a beach ball effect in this. The beach ball effect in this, Stephen, is half the beach ball's red, the other half's white. You see the red part, I see the white part. It's only when sometimes we turn the beach ball or we look at it from a different angle do we see, oh, hold on, it's not. I mean, you've had plenty of those rows, Stephen, of late, as you know, the red and the white. But look, you know, for me, we have to support them, number one. We have to be willing that they are going to make mistakes. They are human beings. Can we do more for them? Is there more that can be done? I genuinely believe there is. I'm not overly, I think the human approach of it is more, there has to be more openness, there has to be more transparency, which I'm not always happy there is within the referee fraternity.
Do you think there's too much separation between referees? Do you think that they feel, oh, we're always getting it? There's a bit of a siege mentality with the referees?
I think they're battered and they're bruised, let's be honest. Any group of people, they'll go to each other for support. I mean, I've proposed 3 times since I've been in NIFL that referees could come to NIFL and we could set up the body within NIFL. Funny, I met with the English rugby league last week who have brought their referees in. Now, it will take a lot of money to make referees full-time and train them and encourage them and work with them, and they wear a brand and they're that. Look, can that be done? I'm not saying it's impossible, but there has to be a real willingness from us all within football family to do that, to create better referees.
And in fairness, I'm not too sure.
But our players, sorry to cut across you, our players aren't as good as the Premier League players that are playing in England at this moment in time. So our referees are maybe at a different standard, but you're right, look, we need them. We can't do without them. But then the other side of that, I'm saying the referees, you want pay rises every year, you want better conditions, you want to push the bar, you need to deliver for us at the same time.
Should there not be a bit of, like, managers and referees? Like, Gerard, one thing I always do, I'm a journalist, right, and I often come into conflict with people, as you know.
I know all about it well, Stephen.
I do, but I think it's important that I think, right, what's going on in that person's, what's going on in that, what's the motive, like, where's he coming from, what's his or her needs and requirements, what pressure is he or she under? I don't think there's enough of that between referees and managers in particular. There's
probably not enough communication, but and you know, I don't know who's at fault for that. I mean, we've organised things, and like we've tried at NIFL in the past to bring everybody together. Half the time managers don't show up. Referee, you know, somebody's there to talk about a decision 6 months ago, and you're like, where do we go with all? It's a little bit like Northern Ireland being unique. We all have to give a little.
To get a little.
To get something, to make progress. People will have favourite referees. People will have people they like and don't like referees. Look, they are under a lot of pressure. Look, there's no doubt about that whatsoever. I think solving all these issues, communication's key. And the one thing I will concede, I think you're right, the referee fraternity will go into the referee, into the bunker, the world's against us. We've got to get to the stage where that's not the case and they don't feel attacked, because I think they feel attacked at this moment in time.
Fair enough. I mentioned our online abuse. How do you deal with it? Criticism? You know, we had the Storm Dara issue, which you came in for a lot of flack for, and I'll be honest with you, and you know I wouldn't blow smoke or anything like that, but I think if you were damned if you did and damned if you didn't, in a way. So you took a lot of criticism. How do you deal with criticism? And let me ask you how important Roisin and the family are for you.
Yeah, 2 parts of that. I spoke to you earlier about the 2 Gerard Lawlors. In a way, you need to retract yourself as the individual and the person, and I learned that quite early in sort of my career. People will criticise a role and NIFL, but look, there's 2 really important groups in my life, is my family and my staff, and I'd probably take a bullet for both of them, very honest with you. So I'll always come out, I'm seen as the front to say, okay, yeah, could we have got that better? Yeah, we could have. People don't know the ins and outs. Look, anybody can set up an account. My family, look, I'm so lucky, and I'm not, you know, I have an amazing wife who is very supportive of me, and my family are steeped in football and in football. Criticism, you know, doesn't really get to me. I can brush it off, I can ignore it. You look at who's doing it or what's the agenda behind it. So overall, I can 99.9% of the times I can brush it off. sometimes it does get to you. It tends to get to me more when it's someone I know, or it's maybe someone that knows me. We go, I thought, like, they know me. They know we're doing our best. They know we're giving 110%. But somebody just going on and blaming me who doesn't know me. Look, I mean, as you know, and we spoke about earlier, I mean, I'd recently, after Storm Dara, a reporter had come to me, a journalist, and said to me that he had a phone call from some people looking to know where I lived.
Oh dear.
So
Oh dear.
that's, when it gets to that, the long line and the abuse. I mean, I was at a game on Saturday, walked through the stand, and I got a F away off Lawlor, you Cliftonville B.
Yeah.
That was a championship game, and I'm going, right, I need to tell the wife to stop shouting. No, that's just some clown somewhere or a fool. Yeah. The one thing is, look, I meet some wonderful people. Sometimes, look, to wrap it up, Stevie, sometimes it gets to you. Sometimes it can be tough. Overall, I can just cope with it, press delete and move on.
I do have to say it, I think people who give out abuse anonymously are cowards and they will be dealt with. Finally, what do you think the game is at the minute? It was sort of a point I was making earlier on. You made a difference between the Premier League and our own Premiership here, and that the play is much better. What about the unique charm of the Irish League? And I'll put it to you, people will be surprised me backing referees, but look at the diving and the simulation that goes on the top flight, in the top flight of the world anywhere these days. We don't have that just yet. I think the game in the Premier League is becoming very samey, very homogenous. It's not as exciting for me, Gerard. Tell me about your views on the game as we wrap this show up.
Totally agree with you, Stephen. I wouldn't be a great lover of Premier League. I mean, I love the product we have. I will watch an Irish League game before a Premier League game any day of the week. So we're tradition, and you know, we talked earlier, we're both traditionalists. I think our game is still in a tradition. It has evolved and it's moving in the right direction, but I think we've kept a lot of our characteristics around the game. I think we've still a lot of the personalities around the game that we have. You know, we've all been around a long time. You go to Premier League now, there's a lot of it is prawn sandwich brigade. We just haven't got into that. And the challenge for us is when we do get all these new stadiums and we do get newer audiences, that we keep those traditions going. But I'm like you, Stephen, give me the Irish League and a cold, wet winter's day at Solitude or Seaview or the Oval any day of the week before going to anything else.
Brilliant, Gerard. I think we've covered everything. It just remains me to thank you for coming and give us your time and your conversation. Thanks a lot, Gerard.
Thanks a lot, Stephen.
That's a special from us today. We do appreciate Gerard coming in, and we wish you well moving forward. That's it for now, folks. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you the next time on Football Express.